The ship was dying and everyone knew it. Jihoon pressed his face against the cold window of the passenger pod, watching stars streak past in ways they shouldn't. His mother, Minji, held him tight against her chest. Her heartbeat was fast, too fast. On her other side, his father Taehyun gripped the safety bars so hard his knuckles had turned white. The morning bell had been carrying 300 families to a new colony world. Jihoon had been excited. 7 years old was old enough to understand they were going somewhere special, somewhere new. His father would grow food in alien soil. His mother would build machines to make water clean. And Jihoon would go to school with other kids and learn about the galaxy. Now the lights were flashing red. People were screaming, and the ship was shaking so violently that Jihoon's teeth rattled in his skull. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, a mechanical voice announced calmly, as if it wasn't describing a disaster. Engine core failure imminent. All passengers secure for emergency landing. Landing. That was a nice word for crashing. Taehyun leaned over and kissed Jihoon's forehead. His lips were trembling. Listen to me, son. Whatever happens, stay close to us. Do you understand? Jihoon nodded, too scared to speak. Then the world exploded into noise and fire and spinning darkness. When Jihoon opened his eyes, everything hurt. His head throbbed. His arm felt wrong, bent at a strange angle. Above him, twisted metal groaned and creaked. Smoke stung his eyes and filled his lungs, making him cough. Mom? His voice came out as a whisper. Dad? A hand grabbed his shoulder. His father's face appeared through the smoke, streaked with blood. I've got you. Don't move yet. Taehyun worked frantically to pull Jihoon free from the wreckage. The passenger pod had torn apart on impact. Jihoon could see daylight through a massive hole in the hull. Beyond it, alien jungle stretched in every direction, thick and green and terrifyingly huge. Where's Mom? His father didn't answer. He just pulled harder, his face twisted in pain and effort. When Jihoon was finally free, he saw why his father hadn't spoken. Minji was still strapped in her seat, but half of the hull had crushed inward right where she sat. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't moving. Mom! Jihoon tried to run to her, but his father caught him. She's gone, Jihoon. Taehyun's voice broke. We have to go now. No! We can't leave her. The fuel cells are leaking. His father coughed, a wet, horrible sound. Blood appeared on his lips. If we stay, we die too. She would want you to live. Taehyun carried Jihoon away from the wreckage, stumbling through the jungle. His father was hurt badly, Jihoon realized. He was leaving a trail of blood on the strange purple moss beneath their feet. His breathing came in short, painful gasps. They walked for what felt like hours. The jungle was hot and humid, filled with sounds Jihoon had never heard before. Things buzzed and chirped and howled in the distance. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than houses, their leaves forming a canopy so thick that only scattered sunlight reached the ground. Finally, Taehyun collapsed near a fallen tree. A hollow had formed beneath its roots, creating a small cave-like space. He pushed Jihoon inside. Stay here, his father whispered. His face was gray now, slick with sweat. The rescue teams will come. They always come. Just stay hidden, stay quiet, and wait. Dad, you're scaring me. I know, buddy. I know. Taehyun pulled out a small device from his pocket, a personal beacon. He activated it and tucked it into Jihoon's jacket. This will help them find you. Don't lose it. What about you? His father smiled, but it was sad and tired. I'm going to rest right here outside. I'll keep watch. Promise? Promise. That was the last conversation they had. Taehyun died sometime during the night, slumped against the tree trunk, one hand still stretched toward the hollow where his son lay sleeping. Jihoon woke to silence. The jungle had gone quiet, which somehow felt worse than the noise. He crawled out of the hollow and found his father's body already cold. He shook him. He called for him. He cried until no more tears would come. Then he crawled back into his hiding spot and waited just like his father had told him to. 1 day passed. Then 2, then 3. Jihoon's water ran out. His stomach cramped with hunger. He tried eating some of the strange berries he found, but they made him sick. He grew weaker, his thoughts fuzzy and confused. Sometimes he forgot where he was. Sometimes he thought he heard his mother calling him. On the 3rd night, he fell into a fevered sleep, curled up in the hollow like a wounded animal. That was when they found him. The Vral moved through the jungle like living shadows. 7 of them, each the size of an earth tiger but built completely different. 6 legs carried them with eerie silence. Their skin was covered in dark scales that shifted colors to match their surroundings. Crystalline eyes, multifaceted like insects, glowed faintly in the darkness. They were apex predators, the top of the food chain on this nameless world. They had been tracking the strange scent for days, following the trail of blood and fear that Taehyun had left behind. Now they surrounded the hollow tree, their hunting circle complete. The pack leader was a female, larger than the others, her scales marked with scars from a lifetime of fights. She approached the entrance of the hollow and lowered her wedge-shaped head, her crystalline eyes adjusting to the darkness inside. She saw the small creature curled up in the dirt, weak, helpless, easy prey. The pack waited for her signal, one gesture and they would feed. But the leader didn't give the signal. Instead, she did something that went against every instinct, every learned behavior, every pattern programmed into her species over millions of years of evolution. She lay down. The other pack members stirred, confused. Their body language spoke of uncertainty, of hunger, of the question, why aren't we attacking? The leader remained still, her eyes fixed on the small creature. Something about it triggered a response deep in her brain. In the parts that recognized helplessness and youth, the creature made soft sounds in its sleep, distressed sounds, lost sounds. She had made similar sounds herself once when her own pups had died 3 months ago. Taken by a rival predator in the night while she had been hunting. The pain of that loss still lived in her body like a wound that wouldn't heal. This creature was someone's pup. Lost and alone and dying. The leader made a low sound in her throat, not a growl but something softer. A decision sound. The pack heard it and understood, even if they didn't fully agree. They would not feed. As dawn broke over the alien jungle, Jihoon lay sleeping in his hollow, completely unaware that he had just been adopted by the most dangerous predators on the planet. Outside, 7 Vral settled into position around the tree. The pack leader positioned herself at the entrance, her body blocking access to the small, vulnerable creature inside. She didn't understand what she was protecting. She didn't understand where it had come from or what it was. She only knew that it was a lost child, and lost children deserved protection. Even if that child was a completely different species. Even if every logical part of her brain said this was wrong. The maternal instinct that defined her species, that made Vral different from simple mindless predators, had made its choice. And when a Vral chose to protect something, that protection was absolute. Jihoon woke to the smell of blood and something else. Something alien and musky that made his nose wrinkle. His eyes opened slowly, his vision blurry with fever and dehydration. The light coming through the entrance of his hollow seemed wrong, blocked by something large. He blinked and focused. A massive creature sat at the entrance, its back to him. 6 legs folded beneath a body covered in dark scales. A long tail curved around its side, the tip twitching occasionally like a cat's. The thing was huge, easily 3 times the size of any dog Jihoon had ever seen. Terror should have flooded through him. His father had warned him about alien predators during the journey. But Jihoon was too weak, too tired, too empty to feel afraid. He just stared at the creature's back and wondered if dying would hurt. The creature's head turned. Crystalline eyes caught the morning light and sparkled like broken glass. Those eyes looked at him with an intelligence that sent a shiver down Jihoon's spine. This wasn't just an animal. This was something that thought, that understood. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then the creature stood and walked away from the hollow, disappearing into the jungle. Jihoon's heart hammered in his chest. Maybe it had left to get the others. Maybe they were planning to attack. He tried to stand, to run, but his legs wouldn't work properly. He managed to crawl to the entrance and peer outside. 6 more creatures lay in a circle around the tree. They were resting but alert, their heads lifting to watch as their leader walked among them. The scarred female made a series of sounds, clicks, and low rumbles that the others seemed to understand. Jihoon pulled back into the hollow, his mind racing. Why hadn't they killed him? Why were they still here? An hour passed, then 2. The creatures didn't leave. They didn't attack. They just waited. Jihoon's stomach cramped again, harder this time. He hadn't eaten in days. Thirst had made his tongue feel like sandpaper. He was going to die here, he realized. Not from the creatures, but from starvation. He closed his eyes and thought about his mother's smile, his father's laugh. At least he would see them again soon. A sound made him open his eyes. Something heavy dropped at the entrance of the hollow. The scarred female stood there, her crystalline eyes watching him. At her feet lay a dead animal, something that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a lizard. She nudged it toward him with her nose, then stepped back. Ji-hoon stared at the dead thing. Then at the creature, then back at the dead thing. Was she giving him food? His stomach made the decision for him. He crawled forward and grabbed the animal. It was still warm. He had no idea how to prepare it, no tools to cook it, but hunger made him creative and desperate. He found a sharp rock and managed to cut away some of the meat. It tasted horrible, gamey and tough and strange, but it was food and his body desperately needed it. He ate until he couldn't eat anymore, then drank from a puddle of rainwater that had collected in a groove of the tree root. It wasn't much, but it was enough to clear his head a little. The scarred female watched the entire time, her expression unreadable. When Ji-hoon finished, he looked at her and did something his mother had taught him to do when someone helped you. He bowed his head and said, "Thank you." The creature tilted her head, processing the sound. Then she made a low rumble in response and walked away. That was how the first day went. And the second. And the third, the creatures brought him food. Small animals, insects, even some fruits that they had apparently tested for safety. Ji-hoon learned quickly what he could and couldn't eat. His strength slowly returned. He started watching the creatures more carefully. The scarred female was clearly the leader. The others looked to her for guidance, for permission, for comfort. When she rested, they rested. When she stood alert, they became alert too. They were a pack. A family. Ji-hoon had learned about pack animals in school. Wolves, dogs, some alien species too. But these creatures were different. More organized. More intelligent. He started naming them in his head. The leader he called Nari, though he couldn't remember why that name felt right. There was a younger male who reminded him of a puppy, always playful and curious. He called that one Bomb. Another female, sleek and fast, became Hana. On the 5th day, something changed. Ji-hoon had crawled out of his hollow to stretch his legs. His arm still hurt but worked better now. He was stronger, clearer. The pack watched him with interest but didn't approach. He tried making a sound like the one Nari made, a low rumble in his throat. It came out wrong, too high and too human, but the pack reacted immediately, their heads snapping toward him. Nari stood and walked over. She circled him slowly, sniffing. Then she made the rumble sound again, but slower, as if teaching him. Ji-hoon tried again, better this time, but still not right. Nari's tail swished. Was that approval? Amusement? He couldn't tell, but something had shifted. He wasn't just a strange creature they were keeping alive. He was trying to communicate with them. Over the next few days, Ji-hoon learned more of their sounds. A sharp click meant danger. A low moan meant rest. A series of chirps meant food. They were teaching him, he realized. Teaching him how to survive, and he was teaching them too in his own way. He showed them how his hands could grip things, how he could climb despite having only 2 legs instead of 6. He made them understand that he was smart, that he could learn. Bomb, the playful one, became his favorite. The young male would bring him sticks and stones as if wanting to play. Ji-hoon would throw them, and Bomb would chase them down with enthusiasm. It reminded Ji-hoon of playing fetch with his cousin's dog back on Earth. Hana, the fast female, started teaching him which plants were safe and which were dangerous. She would bring him different leaves and either eat them herself to show they were safe, or push them away with a warning click. Slowly, impossibly, Ji-hoon was becoming part of the pack. 2 weeks after the crash, something new happened. Another predator, something massive and covered in bone armor, wandered too close to their territory. Ji-hoon heard it before he saw it, a deep, bellowing roar that shook the ground. The pack immediately formed a defensive circle around him. Nari placed herself directly between Ji-hoon and the threat, her body low and ready to fight. The armored predator was bigger than all 7 pack members combined. Its teeth were like swords. Its claws could probably tear through stone. But Nari didn't back down. She roared, a sound so fierce and primal that Ji-hoon felt it in his bones. The other pack members joined in, creating a wall of sound and fury. The armored predator paused, evaluating the situation. 7 against 1, and these 7 were clearly willing to die protecting whatever they had in the center of their circle. After a long, tense moment, the predator turned and walked away. Not worth the fight. When the danger passed, Nari turned to check on Jihoon. She nuzzled him gently with her massive head, and he threw his small arms around her neck, burying his face in her scales. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you, Nari," she rumbled softly in response. A comfort sound. That night, instead of sleeping in his hollow, Jihoon curled up against Nari's side. She was warm and solid, her breathing steady and calm. The other pack members arranged themselves around them, creating a protective circle. For the first time since the crash, Jihoon felt safe. He didn't know that high above the jungle canopy, a rescue ship had entered orbit. He didn't know that teams were preparing to search for survivors. He didn't know that his small beacon, still tucked in his jacket pocket, was sending out its signal. All he knew was that he was no longer alone. He had lost his family, but somehow, impossibly, he had found a new one. A family that didn't look like him, didn't speak like him, didn't even come from the same world as him. But a family that had chosen to protect him when they could have easily killed him. And that choice, made by a grieving mother of a completely different species, would change everything. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the rescue frigate steadfast, staring at the scan results with growing frustration. 3 weeks since the crash, 3 weeks of searching through impossible terrain. They had found 207 survivors from the morning bell, scattered across the jungle in small groups. They had recovered 143 bodies. That left 50 people unaccounted for, including one 7-year-old boy named Jihoon. "Captain, we're picking up a beacon signal," the communications officer called out. "Sector 7, approximately 40 kilometers from the main crash site." Hyunwoo's heart jumped. "Life signs? Beacon still active, which is promising. But sir, there's something else. Multiple large life forms in the immediate area, moving in organized patterns. How large? Big enough to be dangerous. The scan indicates apex predators. At least 6, maybe 7. Dr. Somin looked up from her analysis station. The xenobiologist had been studying the planet's ecosystem since their arrival. "That would be Vral, Captain. We've cataloged them over the past 2 weeks. 6-legged pack hunters, highly territorial. Estimated intelligence level comparable to Earth dolphins or ravens. Dangerous? Extremely. They hunt in coordinated groups and have taken down prey 3 times their size. If that beacon belongs to a survivor..." She didn't need to finish the sentence. Hyunwoo stood silent for a moment, weighing options. Protocol said that after 3 weeks, survivors in predator territory were presumed dead. Sending in a team would risk more lives for what was likely a recovery mission. But it was a child, and the beacon was still active. Prep a rescue team. Full combat loadout. I want Seungri on point. Seungri was their best tracker, a former military scout who could read terrain like others read books. If anyone could get to that beacon and back alive, it was him. 2 hours later, Seungri and his 4-person team dropped into the jungle via shuttle. They moved carefully through the undergrowth, weapons ready. The beacon's signal led them deeper into Vral territory. They found signs of the pack everywhere. Claw marks on trees, half-eaten prey, territorial markers. "This is a bad idea," one of the team members muttered. "We should call for air support." "Air support will spook anything in a 5-kilometer radius," Seungri replied quietly. "If there's a survivor, we don't want to cause a panic." They found Taehyun's body first, still slumped against the tree where he had died. Seungri examined him briefly, noting the injuries and the way he had positioned himself to protect the hollow beneath the roots. "He was guarding something," Seungri said. "The beacon signal is coming from inside." But the hollow was empty. Just a small depression in the dirt where someone had clearly been sleeping. And the beacon, still blinking faithfully, abandoned in the hollow. "He moved," one team member said, "or something moved him." Seungri crouched low, studying the ground. His experienced eyes picked out details others would miss. Small footprints, human-sized, and larger prints, 6-toed and clawed everywhere. "The kid's alive," Seungri said slowly. "And he's traveling with the pack." "That's impossible. Like, look at the tracks." Human prints, walking, not being dragged, and the Vral print circle around them. Protective formation. They're not hunting him. They're guarding him. They followed the trail for 2 kilometers, moving with extreme caution. Every 100 meters they found more evidence. A place where the boy had rested, always surrounded by Vral tracks. Remains of food, some of it clearly prepared for a smaller, weaker creature. Then Seungri held up his hand, signaling stop. Ahead through the trees, movement. The team crept forward and peered through the foliage. What they saw made no sense. A human child, thin and dirty but alive, sat in a small clearing. Around him, 7 massive Vral rested in the shade. The boy was playing with one of them, the youngest male, throwing a stick that the creature would fetch and bring back. "Am I seeing this right?" someone whispered. "Recording everything," another replied, their helmet camera capturing every detail. As they watched, the pack leader, a scarred female, approached the boy with something in her mouth, a strange fruit native to the planet. She dropped it at his feet. The boy picked it up, examined it, and took a bite. He smiled and made a sound, a low rumble that was clearly an attempt at the Vral's own language. The pack leader's tail swished, and she nuzzled the boy gently with her enormous head. Dr. Samin's voice crackled through their comm units. She was watching the feed from orbit. "This is unprecedented. Captain, you need to see this." "I am seeing it, Doctor. I just don't believe it. They've adopted him," Somin said, her voice filled with wonder. "A cross-species adoption. This shouldn't be possible. The behavioral barriers alone should prevent this." Sungri made a decision. He stood up slowly, hands visible and empty. "I'm making contact." Seongri, wait. But the tracker was already stepping into the clearing. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. All 7 Varel surged to their feet, forming a defensive wall around the boy. Their crystalline eyes fixed on the intruders, and the sound they made was like thunder rolling through the jungle. Jihoon's head popped up from behind the wall of scales and muscle. His eyes went wide when he saw the humans in their rescue gear. "It's okay," Shungri said calmly, stopping where he was. "We're here to help. We're here to take you home." The boy's reaction shocked everyone. He didn't run toward them with relief. Instead, he pressed closer to the pack leader, his small hands gripping her scales. "No." His voice was hoarse but firm. "Go away. Jihoon, your name is Jihoon, right? We're here to rescue you." "I don't need rescue." The boy's eyes filled with tears. "Nari saved me. They all saved me. Leave us alone." The pack leader, the one the boy called Nari, moved forward half a step. Her message was clear. Take one more step and there would be violence. Shungri slowly backed away. Okay, we're leaving. But we'll be back, Jihoon. We have to take you home. This is my home now." The rescue team retreated, shaken by what they had witnessed. The recording they brought back caused chaos throughout the Steadfast. Xenobiologists, psychologists, ethicists, and military personnel all gathered to watch the footage over and over. "The boy is suffering from trauma," one psychologist argued. "Stockholm Syndrome, perhaps. He's bonded with his captors." "They're not captors," Dr. Soman countered. "Look at the evidence. They're feeding him, teaching him, protecting him. This is genuine adoption behavior." "Adoption requires sentience," another scientist said. "Are you suggesting these creatures are sentient?" "I'm suggesting we don't know what they are, and we won't know until we study them properly." Captain Hyunwoo listened to the arguments for hours. Finally, he made a decision that would define his career. "We don't extract. Not yet. Captain, he's a human child, who is alive and apparently thriving against all odds. We go in with force, we'll have to kill the pack. And based on what I've seen, those creatures aren't mindless animals. They made a choice to protect that boy. I want to understand why before we make a choice that ends with their deaths. The boy's family is dead. His mother died in the crash. His father survived long enough to hide him and died shortly after. The boy knows this. The only family he has right now is that pack." The decision was controversial, but Hyunwoo held firm. Instead of extraction, he ordered observation. Teams would monitor from a distance, document everything, and try to establish some form of communication. Over the next 2 weeks, they watched something amazing unfold. Jihoon wasn't just surviving with the pack. He was thriving. He learned their language, their customs, their way of moving through the jungle. And the pack learned from him too, their behavior changing in subtle ways as they adapted to having a 2-legged member. Dr. Soman compiled her findings into a report that would change everything. The Vral demonstrated theory of mind, understanding that others had thoughts and feelings different from their own. They showed empathy across species barriers. They solved complex problems cooperatively. They taught their young and protected the weak. In short, they met every criteria for sentience. The report reached the Galactic Council within days. Debates erupted across known space. Videos of Jihoon playing with the pack spread through human colonies and alien worlds alike. Everyone had an opinion. And in the jungle of planet XR711, a small boy and 7 alien predators continued their strange, impossible friendship, unaware that they were at the center of a galactic controversy. Jihoon sat with his head resting against Nari's side, watching the 3 moons rise over the jungle canopy. "Do you think they'll try to take me away?" he asked in Vral, his pronunciation rough but understandable. Nari rumbled softly. A protective sound, a promise sound. The boy smiled and closed his eyes. Whatever happened next, he wasn't alone, and neither was she. Ambassador J1 arrived on the Steadfast 3 months after the crash, carrying with him the weight of the Galactic Council's attention and humanity's reputation. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes, someone who had spent decades navigating the complex politics between species, but nothing in his experience had prepared him for this situation. "Let me make sure I understand," he said, reviewing the reports in Captain Hyanwoo's office. "A 7-year-old human child has been living with apex predators for 3 months. These predators have now been classified as potentially sentient, and the child refuses to leave them." "That's correct, Ambassador." "And you haven't extracted him because—" Hyunwoo met his gaze steadily. "Because extracting him would require killing the pack, and I'm not comfortable ordering the deaths of potentially sentient beings to retrieve a child who is, by all observations, healthy and happy." Jaewon rubbed his temples. "The boy's extended family back on Earth is demanding his return. The media is calling this a hostage situation, and you're telling me we can't do anything?" "I'm telling you we shouldn't do anything. Not yet. We have specialists arriving tomorrow, a child psychologist named Kyungmi, and a linguist named Do-yoon. If anyone can bridge this gap, it's them." Jaewon looked out the viewport at the green planet below. "And if they can't? Then we face some very difficult questions about what we owe a child versus what we owe a newly discovered sentient species." Kyungmi was a small woman with a gentle voice and infinite patience. She had worked with traumatized children for 20 years, but never one in quite these circumstances. When she first saw the footage of Jihoon with the pack, she cried. "That poor baby," she whispered, losing his parents alone in an alien jungle. Of course, he bonded with whoever showed him kindness. But Doyen, the linguist, saw something different. "Look at his body language. He's not acting like a captive or even like someone suffering from trauma bonding. He's acting like a child with his family. Relaxed, playful, secure, how can you tell? 20 years of studying communication across species. Trust looks the same everywhere." They started their work carefully. Instead of approaching Jihoon directly, they set up observation posts around the pack's territory. They watched. They learned. And slowly they began to understand. The Vrail language was complex, a mixture of vocalizations, pheromones, and body language. Doyen spent weeks decoding it, using Jihoon as his reference point. The boy had learned their language through immersion, the way children learned naturally. "He's not just mimicking sounds," Doyen reported. "He's actually communicating. He tells them when he's hungry, when he's tired, when he's scared. And they respond appropriately." Kyungmi watched Jihoon through long-range cameras documenting his daily routine. He woke when the pack woke. He ate when they ate. He played, he learned, he grew stronger. At night he slept curled against Nari, safe in the protection of 7 apex predators who should have eaten him months ago. "I need to speak with him," Kyungmi said after 6 weeks of observation. "Face to face. The pack won't allow it," Hyunwoo warned. "Every time we've tried to approach, they form a defensive perimeter. Then we don't approach. We wait for them to come to us. They set up a station at the edge of the pack's territory. No weapons, no aggressive postures. Just Kyungmi, sitting alone with food and water and a medical kit. Day after day she sat there, reading books, humming songs, simply existing as a peaceful presence." On the 8th day, Jihoon appeared at the tree line, watching her. Nari stood behind him, alert and protective. Kyungmi didn't move. She just smiled. "Hello, Jihoon. My name is Kyungmi. I brought some earth food if you'd like to try it. I have chocolate." The boy's eyes widened slightly at the word chocolate. He remembered chocolate. His mother used to give him chocolate on special occasions. He looked back at Nari, making a soft questioning sound. The pack leader studied the human female carefully, then rumbled something. Permission, Kyungmi guessed. Jihoon walked forward slowly, ready to run at any sign of danger. He took the chocolate bar Kyungmi offered. unwrapped it with fingers that remembered how, and took a bite. The taste exploded in his mouth, so familiar it hurt. Your mom's name was Minji, Kyungmi said gently. Your dad was Taehyun. They loved you very much. Jihoon's eyes filled with tears. I know. Would you like to talk about them? He shook his head. Not yet. The pain was still too fresh. That's okay. We can talk about other things. Can you tell me about your friends? She gestured toward the pack, and Jihoon did. For the first time since the crash, he spoke to another human, really spoke. He told her about Nari, about Bomb's playfulness, about Hana teaching him which plants were safe. He told her how they communicated, what their sounds meant, how they took care of him. They're my family now, he said simply. I understand. But Jihoon, you're human. You need human things too. Education, medical care, a future. Nari's teaching me. I'm learning? Learning what? How to survive. How to hunt. How to be part of the pack. Over the following weeks, Kyungmi and Jihoon met regularly. She never pushed, never demanded. She just listened, offered support, and slowly gained his trust. And through him, she began to understand the pack too. Meanwhile, Doyeon was making his own breakthrough. He had spent months studying Vral communication, and now he believed he could actually speak it. With Hyunwoo's permission, he approached the territory border and attempted contact. The pack appeared within minutes, surrounding him. Doyeon stayed calm, kept his body language submissive and peaceful. Then he spoke in Vral, his voice making the clicks and rumbles their language required. I mean no harm. I wish to understand. The pack froze. Nari stepped forward, tilting her head. She made a complex sound, a question. Doyeon replied, his pronunciation rough but intelligible. I speak to learn, to build bridge between peoples. Nari circled him slowly, processing this impossible thing. A human speaking Vral, not perfectly, not fluently, but speaking nonetheless. She made a decision. She answered him. And in that moment, true first contact began. Over the next months, something unprecedented happened. Humans and Vral began to communicate directly. Doyeon served as translator. But increasingly others learned the language too. And Jihoon, who spoke both languages fluently now, became the most important bridge between the species. Through him, they learned why Nari had saved him. The pack leader had lost her own pups months before finding Jihoon. When she saw him alone and dying, her maternal instincts had overridden her predatory ones. He was a lost child, and lost children needed protection. The concept of species difference simply didn't matter in the face of that fundamental truth. Pack is pack, Nari explained through Doyeon's translation. Blood not matter. Choice matter. We choose him. He choose us. The revelation changed everything. The Galactic Council officially recognized the Vral as sentient beings, granting them all the rights and protections that status carried. XR711 became their protected homeworld, and suddenly the question of Jihoon's future became infinitely more complex. Kyungmi presented him with the options as gently as she could. You can come back with us. Go to school, live with your aunt and uncle on Earth, have a normal human life. Or you can stay. We're establishing a research station here. Humans who want to study and live alongside the Vral. You could live there, go to school through remote learning, and still see your pack every day. Why can't I just stay with them? Because you're still a child, Jihoon. Human law says children need proper care, education, safety. I have all that. You need human contact too. Human friends. You can't grow up only knowing Vral culture. Jihoon looked torn. He loved his pack. They had saved him, raised him, protected him. But he was also starting to remember what it felt like to be human, to speak his first language, to eat familiar food. Nari made the choice for him. Through Doyeon, she spoke to Kyungmi directly. Small one stays with Pack. But Pack understands small one needs human teaching, too. We share caring. Joint custody? Kyungmi said, surprised. Between a human institution and a Vral pack? Pack is pack, Nari repeated. We share caring of young. This is way. And so a compromise was reached. Jihoon would live at the new research station, attend school, interact with humans, but he would spend every afternoon and evening with his pack. He would learn both cultures, speak both languages, belong to both worlds. The day the station opened, Jihoon stood between two families. Behind him, human researchers and teachers. In front of him, 7 Vral who had risked everything to protect him. He belonged to both, and somehow impossibly that was okay. 3 years had passed since the crash of the morning bell. Jihoon was 10 years old now, taller and stronger, his skin tanned from endless days in the jungle. He stood in the research station's main courtyard, watching a shuttle descend from orbit. Inside were 5 new children, orphans from a mining accident on a nearby colony world. "Are you ready for this?" Kyungmi asked, standing beside him. She had become something like a second mother to him over the years, though both of them understood that Nari held that title first. "I think so," Jihoon replied in flawless standard, though he could speak Vral just as easily. "Are they scared?" "Very. They've lost their families just like you did. They need someone who understands." The shuttle landed and the children emerged. 3 girls and 2 boys, ranging from 6 to 9 years old. They looked small and frightened, clutching belongings in their hands, eyes wide as they stared at the alien jungle surrounding the station. Jihoon walked forward slowly, keeping his movements calm and friendly like Nari had taught him. "Hi, I'm Jihoon. I know everything seems scary right now, but I promise you're safe here." A little girl with dark hair started crying. "I want my mom." Jihoon knelt down to her level. "I know, I wanted my mom too when I first came here. She died in a crash, just like your parents died in the accident. It hurts so much you think it might never stop hurting." The girl nodded, tears streaming down her face. "But it does get better. Not the same, but better. And you won't be alone. You'll have teachers, counselors, friends, and—" He smiled. "You'll have the pack." "Pack. Come on, I'll introduce you." He led the children through the station and out the back gate into the jungle. The staff followed at a distance, ready to intervene if needed, but they had learned to trust Jihoon's judgment. He had spent 3 years building a bridge between species. He knew what he was doing. The pack waited in their usual meeting spot, a clearing where the canopy opened enough to let in sunlight. Nari lay in the shade, now with 3 young pups of her own tumbling around her feet. The other pack members had spread out, relaxed but alert. The new children froze when they saw the massive creatures. "It's okay," Jihoon said softly. "They look scary, but they're kind. That one there is Nari. She's the pack leader. She saved my life when I was lost and alone." He walked forward and Nari lifted her head, her crystalline eyes gleaming. She rumbled a greeting and Jihoon rumbled back in perfect Vral. Then he sat beside her, and she rested her massive head on his lap. The children stared in shock. "When I crashed here, I lost everything," Jihoon continued. "My mom, my dad, my whole world. I thought I was going to die. But Nari found me and chose to protect me instead of hunt me. She and her pack fed me, taught me, kept me safe. They became my family when I had nothing." One of the boys took a cautious step forward. "Can I pet her?" "Ask her first, watch." Jihoon made a questioning sound and Nari responded with a soft rumble. "She says yes." The boy approached slowly and touched Nari's scales with trembling fingers. The pack leader remained perfectly still, patient with the frightened child. Soon the other children crept forward too, their fear slowly transforming into wonder. This was Jihoon's purpose now. Over the past 3 years, the research station had evolved into something unprecedented, a place where humans and Vral lived and learned together. And Jihoon was at the center of it all, the first child to truly belong to both worlds. He attended school through remote learning in the mornings, studying math and science and history with teachers who streamed lessons from Earth. In the afternoons, he studied with the pack, learning things no human curriculum included: tracking, survival, the complex social structures of Vral society, the meaning of loyalty that transcended species. Other humans had come to the station, xenobiologists like Dr. Soman, who had stayed for years now, linguists like Doyen, who had made Vral communication his life's work. There were teachers, counselors, and researchers all working to understand and document this unique society. And there were children, orphans mostly, like the group that had just arrived. Children who had lost everything and needed a new beginning. The station took them in, gave them education and care. But the pack gave them something else, a different kind of family, one that asked nothing except that they be part of something larger than themselves. Jihoon watched as the new children slowly relaxed around the pack. The little girl who had been crying was now giggling as Bomb, ever playful despite his age, gently nuzzled her with his nose. The others were meeting the pack's new pups, tiny versions of their parents who tumbled over each other with boundless energy. "You're good at this," Kyungmi said quietly. Having followed them to the clearing, I just show them what the pack showed me. That family isn't about looking the same or coming from the same place. It's about choosing each other. That evening, Jihoon sat with Captain Hunwoo in the station's common room. The captain visited regularly, having become a champion for the project in the wider human community. His controversial decision 3 years ago had been vindicated repeatedly, as the station proved successful beyond anyone's dreams. "I got word from the Galactic Council today," Hyunwoo said. "They want to establish more stations like this one. Places where different species can grow up together, learn from each other. Because of us, because of you, and Nari, and everyone here who proved it could work." Hyunwoo smiled. "You're famous across the galaxy, you know. The lost child adopted by aliens. There are children's books about you now." Jihoon made a face. "That's weird. That's life. You did something no one thought was possible. You showed the galaxy that the barriers between species aren't as strong as we believed. That empathy and family can exist anywhere. I didn't do anything special. Nari did. She chose to save me. And you chose to trust her. That was brave, Jihoon. Braver than most adults could manage." Later that night, Jihoon lay in his room at the station, but he couldn't sleep. He got up and walked outside, past the security systems that had long since been programmed to let him pass freely. He made his way through the jungle paths he knew by heart, following the markers only he could see. The pack was sleeping when he arrived, but Nari woke immediately. She always knew when he was coming. He curled up against her warm side, just like he had that first night 3 years ago when he had been so scared and so alone. "The new children will be okay," he said softly in Vril. "They're sad now, but they'll learn, just like I did," Nari rumbled softly. "A comfort sound, an agreement sound. Do you remember the day you found me? When you chose not to hunt me?" Another rumble. Of course she remembered. Why did you do it? Really? Nari was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke in Vril, and Jihoon translated in his mind. "You were lost, pup. I was mother with no pups. The choice was simple. Pain of losing my children was great, but pain of not saving you would have been greater. Even though I'm not Vril, pack is not blood. Pack is choice. You were alone. We were incomplete. Together we were whole." Jihoon buried his face in her scales, breathing in her familiar scent. Tomorrow he would teach the new children. He would help them learn both languages, both cultures. He would show them that being human didn't mean only connecting with humans, and that family could wear any face and speak any language. But tonight he was just a 10-year-old boy sleeping next to his mother, safe in the protection of his pack. Around them the jungle sang its night songs. Above them 3 moons painted the canopy in silver light, and in the research station a kilometer away, 5 frightened children slept in soft beds, dreaming of the massive creatures who had somehow made them feel safe. The memorial stood at the crash site, maintained carefully by the station staff. Jihoon visited it once a month, bringing flowers he gathered from the jungle. Today he brought the new children with him. "My mom and dad are buried here," he told them, "along with all the other people who died in the crash. I come here to remember them, to tell them about my life." "What do you tell them?" the little girl asked. "I tell them I'm okay. That I found a new family who loves me. That I'm learning and growing and happy." He touched the memorial stone, reading the inscription his fingers had traced so many times. "From tragedy, a new pack was born. Do you think they would be okay with it?" one of the boys asked. "You living with aliens?" Jihoon thought about his father's last words. Stay hidden, stay quiet, wait for rescue. He had done all those things in his own way. But rescue had come in a form no one expected. "I think they would understand. My dad told me to survive. Nari helped me do that. My mom always said family was about love, not blood. The pack loved me when I had nothing." He smiled at the children. "And now we can share that love with you. If you want it." The little girl took his hand. "I want it." "Me too," said another. One by one, the children agreed. They were ready to learn, ready to grow, ready to become part of something bigger than their grief. As they walked back to the station, Jihoon saw Nari watching from the tree line, her pups playing at her feet. She rumbled a greeting and he rumbled back. The pack was growing, not just the Vril pack, but something larger, a new kind of family that included humans and aliens, researchers and children, tragedy survivors and those who chose to help them heal. 3 years ago, a predator pack had surrounded a lost child. They could have fed. Instead, they chose to follow their hearts into uncharted territory. And in doing so, they changed the galaxy's understanding of what family could mean. Jihoon lived between 2 worlds, belonged to 2 species, spoke 2 languages. He was neither fully human nor fully Vrail. He was something new. Something better. He was proof that the strongest bonds aren't forged by similarity, but by the courage to choose love across impossible distances. And that, more than anything, was humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. The stubborn, irrational, beautiful belief that family could be anyone who chose to stay.